Mr. Chairman, let me take the first minute because I do think there's a little bit of a pattern that you're going to see in our questioning from the committee. Let me just at the top of my remarks just congratulate Ms. Gonzalez and Mr. Palmore, their families, their friends, and none of us get in this room by ourselves. And to just know that it is that you all are being supported both physically and here in person, also virtually, online, and maybe your son is thinking about you at summer camp. If he's anything like my daughter, probably not. But just congratulations to you all. Congratulations on your nominations by the president. Thank you for your service that has earned you that nomination. You, hopefully, if confirmed, will be an incredibly important part of the judicial system in one of the busiest, most backlogged communities in the country. And so your service is definitely in high demand and needed, definitely appreciated and seen here, even if you don't get a lot of questions directed your way. With that, I'll turn my questions back to the conversation at hand. The Postal Service, as you both know, Ms. Fisher and Ms. Poling, it is one of the most present ways in which our government shows up at the door of our constituents. And for states like mine, California, who today are experiencing thousands of acres on fire, it is an incredibly important service and lifeline for so many. And when Mr. DeJoy, Postmaster DeJoy, was here just a few months ago, he and I had an exchange about a number of post offices in my state that have been closed for several reasons. Nevertheless, it has been, in some instances, years since those post offices have been reopened. And it remains an critically important point of conversation for me in a way in which I can serve my constituents. And so I'm trying to get to, really quickly, you both of you have been serving on the PRC. And so what I'd love to do to hear about is, what have you been doing to ensure that the needs of rural Americans have been considered in the plan and execution of the strategy that Mr. DeJoy is and the leadership of the Postmaster General have been deploying to ensure that those communities aren't overlooked? People think about California as this big urban place. It is one of the most diverse states in the country relative to language as well as geography. And so talk to me about your service up till now focused on rural communities. And I'm happy to start, Ms. Poling, with you this time.
Thank you so much, Senator Butler. Appreciate the question. So rural America is near and dear to my heart. When I was working here on the committee, I actually worked for senators from North Dakota and Montana, Senator Heidi Heitkamp and Senator John Tester. So I have spent a lot of time out in those states really connecting with constituents and understanding what it is that they're dealing with. And the post office matters everywhere. I always think that's important to say. But there is a special connection in rural America that is different, I think. And it really is such a central part of those communities. So rural America has been front of mind for me ever since starting at the commission, because it was a huge part of my work here in the Senate for those senators. And I think, we are always, service is something, I've talked about it a little bit today with what we're doing with our public inquiry docket on the Delivering for America plan, making sure we're asking questions where we can there. I already mentioned, I think an advisory opinion does need to be filed, and I think that gives us a chance to really assess what is going on all over the country, especially in rural America, to your point. But in terms of something I think personally that I've done at the commission, specifically related to rural America, several years ago, the Postal Service lengthened service standards for portions of first-class mail and periodicals. I supported a unanimous advisory opinion for the commission, but I did provide an additional commentary. And I provided that commentary because the Postal Service did not reach out to examine the impact that this lengthening of service standards would have on rural Americans. They also did not look at how it would impact the elderly or low-income Americans. So I wrote a separate statement about that and saying that that was something I really felt had to be looked at. That's something that still concerns me to this day. We have to understand what's going on in these different communities. So I can tell you that I will remain dedicated to this. I really hope we have the opportunity to assess what's going on in this plan through an advisory opinion, and I really think the Commission can contribute greatly to your understanding of what's going on in California, but all over the country.
I agree with you. Every state has a rural part of the state or multiple rural parts of the state, including California. I've visited over the course of my career a number of different places, a small town in Wyoming that was served just maybe 3 times a week because of the level of rural it was. When I worked for Senator Collins, there were people who lived on islands and received mail somewhat sporadically by boat. I traveled with my family down into the Grand Canyon once. We were backpacking, and I saw donkeys carrying mail down to the base of the Grand Canyon. So the Postal Service makes it happen, but I am concerned as the Postal Service evolves and under the Delivering for America plan that not enough attention is being paid to how that plan may impact the most remote areas of the country. They have a new service called Local Transportation Optimization, which has changed the amount of times that the postal trucks will visit the different post offices. The further out a post office is, the less it may be visited and have the mail picked up or delivered. That would directly impact the rural citizens. So I think your concern on behalf of your own constituents, but every member who has rural citizens has the right to be concerned. They are the ones in the most rural areas who are most reliant upon the Postal Service. They may not have an Amazon delivery driver or UPS or FedEx stopping by on a regular basis. So that's a heart for me as someone who grew up in South Dakota, is very aware of rural needs of citizens. I keep my eye on this, and I am committed to continuing to doing so.
Thank you, Senator Butler.